Vaishnavas in our parampara for giving me an opportunity to be here. And I seek all your blessings. I'm sitting on the Vyasasana so that I can speak whatever is prescribed in the Shastras and whatever comes in the parampara. So let's begin our class, and thank you very much for the warm welcome. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Naskrityam Naran Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraje Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Ukam Karoti Vachalam Pangulangayatem Krim Yat Kripatamaham Mande Shri Gurudintarinam Paramanandam Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 23, and the text number is 23. If some of you who have seen the verse, is quite an extended verse, and then you would always be pondering as to what are we going to discuss today, but then it's a very interesting verse, and there's a lot of inference that we can get from this verse. So let's begin the verse. Because it's a very long verse, I would read it to myself, and it may be a little difficult for us to read it together. So I'll read it to myself, and then we'll go straight into word-to-word translation. Yatha medistima akramana parshva samyojita tribhavis tribha sarvanir yathastadan mandalini karantena eva bhagana grahadyena etasmin antarabhiyogena kala chakra ayojita Dvaram evalambhya vayudornimanana alkapantanam parichana kramanti nabsi yatha mega swayodya vayuvasaha karma sarthaya parvirtante eva jyotigata prakriti purusha Samyo grununanita karma nirmita gatayo bhuvina patanti. Can you read the word-to-word translation? Yatha, exactly like, medisthambe, to the pivot post, akramana parsva, bulls for thrashing rice, Samyojita, being yoked, tribhi, by three, savanai, movements, yathasthanam, in their proper places, mandalani, orbits, charanti, transverse, Evam, in the same way, Bhaganaha, the luminaries like sun, the moon, Venus, Mercury, Mars and Jupiter, Graha Adhyaya, the different planets, Etasmin, in this, Antabhayogena, by connection with the inner or outer circles. Kala Chakre, in the wheel of eternal time. Ayojita, fixed. Dhruvam, Dhruvaloka, Eva, certainly. Avalambhya, taking support of, Vayuna, by the wind, Uttiriya Mana, being propelled akalpa antam until the end of the creation. Parichan kramanti, revolving all around. Nabhasi, in the sky. Yatha, exactly like. Megha, heavy clouds. Senadhyaya, birds such as the big eagle. Vayuvasaha, controlled by air. Karmasarathya, whose chariot drivers are the results of their own past activities. Parivartante, move around. Evam, in this way. Jyoti Gana, the luminaries, the planets, and the stars in the sky. Prakriti, of material nature. Purusha, and of the Supreme Personality, Krishna. Samyoga Anugritiha, supported by the combined efforts. Karma Nirmita, caused by their own past fruitive activities. Gataya, whose movements, Bhuvi, on the ground. Na, not. Patanti, fall down. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. When the bulls are yoked together and tied to a central post to thrash rice, they thread around the pivot without deviating from their proper positions. One bull being closest to the post, another in the middle, and the third on the outside. Similarly, all the planets and all the hundreds and thousands of stars revolve around the pole star, the planet of Maharaj Dhruva, in their respective orbits, some higher and some lower, fashioned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to the machine of material nature according to the results of their fruitive acts. They are all driven around the pole star by the wind and will continue to be so until the end of creation. These planets float in the air within the vast sky, just as the clouds with hundreds of tons of water float in the air, and as the great Shena eagles, due to the results of past activities, fly high in the sky and have no chance of falling to the ground. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. According to the descriptions of this verse, the hundreds and thousands of the stars, the great planets such as the Sun, the Moon, Venus, Mercury, Mars, and Jupiter are not clustered together because of the law of gravity and any similar idea of the modern scientist. These planets and stars are all servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda or Krishna. And according to His orders, they sit in their chariot and travel their respective orbits. The orbits in which they move are compared to the machines given by the material nature to the operating deities of the stars and the planets who carry out the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by revolving around the Dhruva Loka, which is occupied by the great devotee Maharaj Dhruva. This is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 5.52 as follows. Chakshakshurvesha savita sakala grana Raja samasta suramurti rashesha teja yasyantna brahmari sambrita kala chakro govinda madi purusham tamam bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, under whose control even the sun, which is considered to be the eye of the Lord, rotates within the fixed orbit of eternal time. The sun is the king of all planetary systems and has unlimited potency in heat and light. This verse from Brahma Samhita confirms that even the largest and the most beautiful and the powerful planet, the sun, rotates within the fixed orbit or Kala Chakra. In obedience to the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This has nothing to do with the gravity and other imaginary laws created by the material scientist. Material scientists want to avoid the ruling government of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore they imagine different conditions under which they suppose the planets move. The only condition, however, is the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All the various predominating deities of the planets are persons, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is also a person. The Supreme Personality orders the subordinate persons, the demigods or the various names, to carry out his supreme will. This fact is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9.10, wherein Krishna says, Madhyakshena prakarati suyate sa characharam hetudvena kaunteya jagat vipravit vartete. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and unmoving beings. By its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. The orbits of the planets resemble the bodies in which all the living entities are seated, because they are all both machines controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 18.61, Ishvara sarva bhutanam hridayeshu yujuna tishtanti Brahmaya sarva bhutani yatra antirudhi mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wandering of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of material energy. The machine given by material nature, whether the machine of the body or the machine of the orbit or Kala Chakra, works according to the orders given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead and material nature work together to maintain this great universe. And not only this universe, but also the millions of other universes beyond this one. The question of how the planets and stars are floating is also answered in this verse. It is not because of the laws of gravity. Rather, the planets and stars are enabled to float by the manipulations of air. It is due to such manipulations that big, heavy clouds float in and the big eagles fly in the sky. Modern airplanes like 747 jet aircrafts work in the similar way. By controlling the air, they float high in the sky, resisting the tendency to fall to the earth. Such adjustments of the air are still made possible by the cooperation of the principles of Purusha, male, and Prakriti, female. By the cooperation of material nature, which is considered to be Prakriti, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is considered the Purusha, all the affairs of the universes are going on nicely in their proper order. Prakriti, material nature, is also described in the Brahma Samhita as follows. Srishti Sthiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Reko Chayaya Yasya Bhuvananni Bhivanti Durga Ichhanu Rupam Api Yasya Chetashesa Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. The external potency, Maya, who is of the nature of shadow of the Chit, spiritual potency, is worshipped by all people as Durga, the creating, preserving and destroying agency of this mundane world. I adore the primeval Lord, Govinda, in accordance with whose will Durga conducts herself. Material nature, the external energy of the Supreme Lord, is also known as Durga, or the female energy that protects the great fort of this universe. The word Durga also means fort. This universe is just like a great fort in which all the conditioned souls are kept, and they cannot leave it unless they are liberated by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself. Krishna himself declares in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tattvataha tvakta deham punarjanmam naiti mameti Arjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving this body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Thus simply by Krishna consciousness, by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can liberate, or in other words, one can be released from the great fort of this universe and go outside to it, to the spiritual world. It is also significant that the predominating deities of even the greatest planets have been offered this exalted post because of the very valuable pious activities they performed in the previous birth. This is indicated herein by the words of Karman Nirmanti Gataya. For example, as we have previously discussed, the moon is called Jiva, which means that he is living entity like us. But because of his pious activities, he has been appointed to the post of moon god. Similarly, all the demigods are living entities who have been appointed to their various posts as the masters of the moon, the earth, Venus, and so on because of their great service and pious acts. Only the predominating deity of sun, Surya Narayan, is an incarnation of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maharaj Dhruva, the predominating deity of Dhruvaloka, is also a living entity. Thus, there are two kinds of entities, the Supreme Entity, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the ordinary living entity, the Jiva. Nityo Nityanam Chetasa Chetanas Chetananam. This is from Katha Upanishad 2.2.13. All the demigods are engaged in the service of the Lord. Only by such an arrangement are the affairs of the universe going on. Regarding the great eagles mentioned in this verse, it is understood that there are eagles so big that they can prey on a big elephant. They fly so high that they can travel from one planet to another. They start flying in one planet and land in the another. And while in flying, they lay eggs that hatch into other birds while falling through the air. In Sanskrit, such eagles are called Svena. Under the present circumstances, of course, we cannot see such huge birds, but at least we know of the eagles that can capture monkeys and then throw them down to kill and eat them. Similarly, it is understood that there are gigantic birds that can carry off elephants, kill them and eat them. The two examples of eagle and the cloud are sufficient to prove that the flying and the floating can be made possible through the adjustments of air. The planets, in a similar way, are floating because material nature adjusts the air according to the orders of the Supreme Lord. It could be said that these adjustments constitute the law of gravity. But in any case, one must accept that these laws are made by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The so-called scientists have no control over them. The scientists are falsely, improperly declare that there is no God, but this is not a fact. Om Tat Sat. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uda Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha Kalpatarobhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. And very extended verse, and the purport that Srila Prabhupada gives is also very extended. The understanding that we need to get from this verse is very, very simple, and it can be actually summarized in about 4 points. But nevertheless, we will go through the whole verse. Srila Prabhupada has given us such nice explanation. So let's look at the verse and then move ahead with it. Srila Prabhupada is actually thrashing the idea that it is because of law of gravity that all these planets are moving. The so-called scientists claim that it is only because of the law of gravity that the planets are kept in their positions, in their orbits, and they're moving in the direction that they are supposed to be moving, in the speed that they are supposed to be moving, they move. No, that idea is completely thrashed by Srila Prabhupada. And the example given here is again how the clouds, can we ever think of something which has some weight can stay afloat? It's not possible. If I take this phone and leave it down because of gravity, it falls down. But on the contrary, when you compare it with the clouds have thousands of gallons of water in them. How are they still moving around in the sky? Have you ever thought about it? Some of us make this argument. I think we've all got this material education, the so-called material or the so-called science that we realize, and the knowledge that is given by science tells us that anything which has some weight comes down to the earth because of law of gravity, because of the pull that earth has. But have you ever thought why the clouds are still floating in the sky? Not possible. We would always say, if we look at law of gravity, the clouds cannot be in the sky. They have to be somewhere on earth, or they should actually merge with seas and rivers. So, on the second example that Srila Prabhupada gives us, the eagles fly in the air. Nowadays you see the eagles are very small, but we understand from our Shastra that the eagles who can actually even take on the elephants we suppose are the heaviest animals on earth. And these elephants are also being chased and eaten and defeated by the eagles. So you can think of the size of the eagles which are available, and these eagles can fly high in the sky. Now again, it's a food for thought. Is it possible? One may say no, with the science that we read today, it's not possible because they're heavy, and if heavy things are there in the air, they tend to fly, they tend to fall down to earth. So which is not possible. And on the same grounds, the 747 aircrafts are floating in the air. How are the 747 aircrafts or any other aircrafts that you see are floating in the air? Because it is the adjustment of the pressure in the air. It is the manipulation of the air that we do, and that's how, with so many passengers, 300, 400, 500 passengers, or so much of cargo, all these aircrafts are flying in the air. So Srila Prabhupada says it is all happening because of Prakriti and Purusha. There are two things here. Prakriti is the material nature, and Purusha is Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The material nature manipulates the air, and because of the manipulation is done, the planets are actually revolving around the orbit in the places where they are supposed to be, in the speed that they are supposed to be, at the pace that they're supposed to be. And if somebody says that planets are in their own orbit because of the gravity, that's a falsehood. That's not the truth. Material nature manipulates all the air. And who manipulates the material nature? We say material nature manipulates the air, right? This is accepted because we've read this in the past also, that material nature manipulates the air. And who manipulates the material nature? So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada very clearly says, Yasyagna Brahmati Samrita Kala Chakro. By the orders of the Supreme Lord, the material nature is manipulated. The material nature works. And what a classical statement it is, Srila Prabhupada says everything is running by the orders of Purusha and Prakriti. Somebody feels it, how is it possible? Is that the single person who can run the whole thing? Or is it only two of them, that's Purusha and Prakriti, who can run the whole universe? Not only this planet, but the planets beyond this earth as well. Yes, it is a fact. The scientists may try to scratch their brains, thinking, how is it working? It's not possible. Can a single person sitting at the back office run such a complicated universe, run such a complicated nature, run such a complicated material nature? Many times we are pondering that, from a small seed, a huge tree comes out. How is it possible? And material scientists give that a different understanding to it. But it is possible because it is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who runs this material nature. Once there was I would like to narrate a very small story here. Narad Muni was traveling across the rivers and reaches Lord Narayana. And that day Lord Narayana is having headache. And he tells him, how can I help you to relieve you of this headache that you have? So Narad Muni is perplexed because Lord Narayana is not answering him as to how he can get relief of this headache. He says, Lord, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How can somebody else help you to get relief from this headache? But Lord Narayana says, if you get me the dust of the lotus feet of the gopis, and if I apply that on my forehead, I will be relieved of this headache that I have. So, Narad Muni goes down. Well, the story was a little different. I made it a little fast forward. But then it's important to know that Narad Muni is saying that if you can get me the dust of the lotus feet of my devotees, I can get relief from this headache that I have. And Narad Muni says, okay, that's very easy for me to do. I will go down and talk to your devotees and then get the dust of their lotus feet. And he goes to meet devotees. He first meets the Brahmanas. And the Brahmanas say, oh, you want me to lose all my good deeds that I've done in this lifetime? You don't want me to go back home, back to Godhead? I cannot do that. It is not possible. How can I give the dust from my feet? No, I reject it. But Narada pleads there, saying that Lord Narayana is having headache. Don't you want to help him? He says, no, that's not possible. So here, this Brahmana is not worried about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is only worried about his own going back home, back to Godhead. He only wants, his destination is that he wants to go back home, back to Godhead by hook or crook, not by satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Narada is somehow morose and he feels that, no, I think I should go beyond and check with the demigods. He checks with the demigods and the demigods also say the same thing, saying that, no, we've got this exalted position just because of him. I don't want to lose my position. But then Narada says, are you not worried about the headache the Supreme Personality of Godhead has? He says, no, we're not interested. We are very particular that we want to be in our positions. We don't want to lose this great position that we've got. And Narada moves ahead from there. He moves ahead thinking that, no, I have no solace. Then he comes down to Vrindavan, where the gopis, the coward girls are there, the coward women are there. The coward ladies are very simple. He goes and tells them, you know something? The Supreme Personality of Godhead has a headache. And the only way of getting relief from this headache is that if you give a little dust from your feet. And these gopis who are, we call them so-called uneducated, not qualified, not educated, they immediately, start scrubbing their feet and saying that take this. If with whatever little bit that we do, if we can give relief to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it's my fortune. And then Narad Muni poses the same question saying that, what will happen to you? You will be sent to Naraka. You will be sent to the lower planetary system because if you are giving the dust of your feet, how is it possible? Then the gopis say, no, we are okay. Even if we have to suffer life after life, but if I am able to give that 1 minute of relief to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I am happy to do so. Likewise, there was another story where there's a Brahmana. The Narad Muni again comes to the earth planet and says, he meets the devotees. So he's meeting the Brahmanas and the Brahmanas ask him, what is my Supreme Personality of Godhead doing? So Narada gives us example saying that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is trying to put an elephant through the eye of the needle. Yeah, how big is the eye of the needle? We've all seen eye of the needle. Yeah, of late, in our families, we've stopped stitching at home. It's all ready-made. So some of us don't even know, yeah, that what is the eye of a needle. It's very tiny, very, very tiny. And this Brahmana says, is it possible? Are you joking? Have you ever met Lord Narayana? No, it's not possible. It is impossible for the Lord to put the elephant through the eye of the needle. So Narad Muni moves on from there and goes to a very simple devotee of the Lord. And there, this devotee does not even know to read and write. In our language, we call them so-called uneducated. But when Narad Muni tells him that the Lord was remembering you and, he was asking about your well-being. So here this devotee is also asking about the well-being of the Lord. What's happening in the Lord's abode? And then when he says, what was the Lord doing? So Narad Muni says he was trying to put the elephant through the eye of the needle. Oh, this devotee start jumping. Wow, my Lord is performing such nice, wonderful pastimes. Narad Muni poses a question to him saying that, hey, are you not astonished? Are you not amazed? Or are you not surprised that an elephant cannot go through the eye of the needle? He says, anything is possible for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anything under His order is possible. Have you not seen a small seed which can give a big banyan tree? So what to talk about the elephant going through the eye of the needle? It is possible. So some of us, with our material knowledge, most of the time, get into this ego or get into this puffed up nature of saying that, is it ever possible for the Lord? Please leave that question behind. Always accept it, saying that everything is possible for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything. As we gave these two examples of gallons of water which is there in the clouds still keeps floating. A small seed can give you a big banyan tree. Likewise, the eagles, the huge eagles can fly in the sky. So, here Srila Prabhupada is repudiating the claim of the so-called scientists that it is floating because it's not floating, it is moving because of the law of gravitation or law of gravity. So, for all of us, it is like a fairy tale. We always think that, oh, it's not possible. We say, once upon a time, there used to be a king who would have his palace in the air. These are all fairy tales. But then practically for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, these things are absolutely possible. Now the question arises in all of us, how are we to agree this? Yeah? Did this question arise to you? No? I'm sure you're not speaking about it. I had the same question. Because of the material education all of us get, the so-called degrees that we get this question. How is it possible for the Lord? How am I to agree such statements that, so heavy things can also be there in the air without any support, and that the law of gravity doesn't really have any perspective to the movement of the planetary system. So with limited understanding, how are we to perceive this? Let's accept for the time being that it is said in our Shastras, and it is confirmed by Srila Prabhupada, because we are all Srila Prabhupada Anugas. We always accept the saying that if Srila Prabhupada says that, yes, let's accept it for the time being, yeah? That yes, it is possible because it is given in our Shastras and it is also confirmed by Srila Prabhupada. And that's how a lot of people take up to Krishna consciousness. Yeah? They say, let me try. Let me accept it because it is told by somebody and it is confirmed in the Shastras. And they take up to Krishna consciousness. They follow the 4 regulative principles. They start chanting the holy name of the Lord. They start practicing all the practical things. And after following 20 years of this instructions, saying that you have to get up early in the morning, attend the Mangalarti, chant 16 rounds on your beads, read Srimad Bhagavatam, follow the instructions of the spiritual master, after 20 hard years, is it again acceptable to us? I'm saying some of us can be 2-3 years, some of us can be 20 years, some of us can be 30 years into the Krishna conscious movement. But are we still accepting it so easily? Did some of you have doubt when we started reading saying that there is no control of law of gravity? This question arises very often to us, saying that is it possible? But again, let's take this one very small example which will give you a beautiful analogy. All of us have seen spiders. They create a web. And how does the spider work? And all of us know that, there are 5 senses: the hearing, seeing, touching, smelling and tasting. The senses with which a lot of things can be performed. But do you know that the spider, when it constructs the web, has only one sense? And which sense is that? Sorry, Prabhu? Touch. Very nice. Thank you very much. The only sense that, or only one feeling that the spider has is only the touch. So when it builds this cobweb around, this spider web around, it can feel if there's a prey into it just by the touch, not by smell, not by taste, or not by anything. It doesn't know how to even taste. Yeah? But the moment there's a prey which comes into the spider's web, it immediately goes and captures it just by touch. At the same time, think about this, that this web is in the kitchen of the temple. Yeah, there are webs, there are times. I know Iskcon temples are beautiful, and Srila Prabhupada was very particular that you have to maintain them very well. And in the recent visit of His Holiness Srila Jayaprakash Swami Guru Maharaj, he said, please ensure that there are no rats in your temple. He made a very nice statement. Well, Srila Guru Maharaj meant it in a right way, because he said Srila Prabhupada wanted all the temples of Iskcon to be very clean and neat. But just for the sake of our discussions of the class, let's take this example, saying that there's a very nice halwa being made in the kitchen. The spider is also around there. Is the spider feeling any any smell of this halwa? For devotees, yes, when a nice halwa is made around, you get the smell of it. Though it is said that before it is being offered to the Lord, we should not smell it. And when we mean smell it, go near it and purposely smell it. But by default, the aroma goes around and we get the aroma of the nice preparations that we make for the Lordships. So despite the aroma being around, the spider is not really worried. Yeah? So that's the kind of perceiving efficiency that the spider has. Despite the nice halwa being around, it is not able to perceive it. It is not able to hear it. It is not, there's a making of the halwa. There's a lot of noise that happens, but the spider is not really able to get it. It's in the same kitchen that the butter halwa is made, but beyond the web, for the spider, nothing is possible. The spider thinks that's its own world. We've also heard about a tadpole which says, the well is my world. There's nothing beyond the well. So likewise, we are limited by our thoughts. We are limited by our perceiving capacities. And we say, beyond this, there is nothing which is possible. Likewise, we may not be able to go beyond the planet Earth, and we don't know anything what's happening beyond the Earth. Yeah, we are in this tiny, small little place. Forget about this Earth. Do we all know what's happening in Lingarajpuram area? We don't even know there are many things that are happening in our own temple here. So our knowledge is very, very limited. And with a limited knowledge, if somebody has to say that, no, this is not possible, that person is lying to you. If the scientists say that, it is moving because of law of gravity, and if it is moving because of the orbital presence of those planets, no. It has to be substantiated by our Shastras, it has to be confirmed by our Shastras, then only something can be confirmed. So therefore we are given that the happenings of the eagles flying high, and they are also even capable of capturing the elephant, does not appeal to us. It does not appeal. Even the clouds which we say, all of us have known this, saying that there's gallons and gallons of water which is there in the clouds, but still we don't believe it that they are flying. So we are like spiders with very limited access. We can't think of anything spiritual or material beyond our sense perceptions. And within the cobweb, the spider knows only the touch. Even within the cobweb, it doesn't go beyond the touch feeling. So this is our understanding that our knowledge we derive is very, very limited. Does anybody know how much of lava is flowing through the mountain of Hawaii currently? There's a big eruption now. If we can't do such a small thing, how is it possible for us to perceive what is the energy of Supreme Personality of Godhead and what is His potency? It is, as I said earlier, we are limited like a cobweb, or we are limited like a spider in the cobweb. When do we start getting this understanding? When can we think of Golok Vrindavan? When can we think of the Brahmaloka? When can we think of Satyaloka? I think our knowledge is very, very limited. Forget about anything else. We don't even have knowledge of our own Bhumandala. We can't even understand our planet Earth. And how do we understand the whole universe with the limited knowledge? Well, there's an answer given by Krishna himself in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna gives this knowledge to Uddhava. And he says, Bhuteshu Ghosha Rupena. What is Ghosha Rupena? Ghosha Rupena is sound vibration. This knowledge can be had by sound vibration. There's another very nice story I would like to quickly run through it, though I think we are running a little slow on the time. There's a very old story in 1954 in the US. I'm sure you can go onto the web and look for it. There was a lady called Dorothy Martin, and she had created some kind of this knowledge which says, I have some knowledge which is actually coming from a different world and I'm doing this. And she actually says that on the 21st of December, this whole US is going to be submerged and we're going to be ending the whole planet. And there's a lot of details about this. You should read the story. And finally, she dies. Yeah. Why I'm rushing through it is I want to come to the main point of the discussion here, saying that you may have knowledge, you may get this knowledge from so many people. You may even say that there's some higher personality which is talking to you from another universe, and you don't know who that higher personality is. It talks about various planet called Clarion and a planet called Care and all such things. It's a very long story. So this lady finally says that it is going to end on the 21st of December, and it doesn't really happen. On the 18th night she says, this is what came to my dream and this is what I said. On the 20th she again comes back saying that I get this, and on the 21st morning nothing really happens. And there was big news in the US media, and people say that she's got so much of knowledge and she is doing everything. So what I'm trying to drive the point here is, despite having so much of knowledge, she was finally sent to mental asylum and she later on died. So the knowledge without basis is useless. You may say, I have so much of knowledge, but does your knowledge have any basis? Is it coming from an authorized source? Is it spoken by a bona fide spiritual master? So please understand where I'm trying to connect this. There are others also. Now here, Uddhava has been talking about Ghosha Rupena, but Krishna goes beyond the sound vibration. He says the sound vibration has to come in the parampara. It has to be spoken by a bona fide spiritual master. And the knowledge that the bona fide spiritual master is speaking has to come from the authorized scriptures. There are many scriptures, I'm sure. We've all known some mundane scriptures have come, and some philosophies have some theories have come which make no sense. The ultimate aim of the philosophy, the ultimate aim of the Shastras or ultimate aim of a guru is to guide you back home, back to Godhead. And that is what one needs to understand. We've also heard about Baula Sampradaya. They say Krishna is going to come, Radharani is going to come. It is an Apasampradaya, we should not even think about it. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj makes this very clearly, saying that a lazy person is a person who's lazy in understanding his philosophical truth, and he can never cross over the obstacles of the material world or the material nature. So one must understand the Siddhanta, and if somebody is not trying to understand the Siddhanta because of his alasa, because of lazy nature, he will continue to be in this material world. And in 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam also, I will read this translation. Because a person who has been covered by ignorance since long time or time immemorial is not capable of effecting his own self-realization, there must be some other person. So we are all like that person. We've been there in the ignorance for a very, very, very long time. So in the continuation, Srila Prabhupada said there must be some other personality who is with factual knowledge of the absolute truth, and he can impart the knowledge to him. Very solid statement. If we are all in ignorance, and if we think that we are so-called qualified, it is wrong. But for a person to realize that he is in ignorance and to get knowledge, he should approach a person who has knowledge, who has the knowledge of the absolute truth. This is also very important, that we should worship our Guru. In the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is very clearly said, even the demons accept this. In the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Indra offends his Guru. Who is Indra's Guru? Brihaspati. He offends his Guru. And demons take this advantage. Because he has offended his Guru, they go and worship their Guru. Who's the Guru of demons? Shukracharya. Wonderful. So, the principle is that of getting knowledge is only possible by serving the spiritual master. Hiranyakashipu also tried to get this knowledge, but he did not get this knowledge completely because of his false ego. He was very qualified. Hiranyakashipu, if you all know, was very, very qualified, because of his knowledge. But the least that one should use is the ego in their life that comes in the way of attaining the knowledge. And plus the association of devotees is very, very important. Hiranyakashipu had the association of Sandayana Maraka. They always put wrong things into his mind, saying that don't worry, your son, we will take care of him, we will train him to worship you. You're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is what they said to Hiranyakashipu. So one is knowledge, being received in the parampara by a bona fide spiritual master. At the same time, you should have association of like-minded people or devotees who can guide you in the right direction. It is possible to revive the knowledge that is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the association of devotees. And one should take shelter of the spiritual master and serve him. And one day, for sure, the spiritual knowledge will be revealed to you. This will be the understanding of the whole discussions that we had today. So just to, recap whatever we discussed, though we circled around the universe, we talked about the heavenly planets, the planets which are actually rotating on their orbits. They are being controlled, as said by the scientists, by the law of gravity, which is not a truth. So just for us to recap, our understanding comes from our senses, and our senses are limited, like the spider, so don't trust our senses. It is possible that the knowledge which is given by the Lord can be revived, and this can be revived only by the association of devotees, and the association of devotees also should be supported by reading of the Shastras and the advice of or the instructions of a bona fide spiritual master. So I will end our conversation on this particular verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, though it is an elaborate verse and very nicely given examples by Srila Prabhupada, that one needs to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead under the guidance of the spiritual master, a bona fide spiritual master, take the shelter of the Shastras and associate with the devotees. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them, and I would also look forward to your comments, and if there are any corrections, please go ahead and make them. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, devotees have any questions? It's a good opportunity. Prabhuji is still with us to associate with him. Any questions, particularly in this verse today, will be appreciated, but then if he is merciful, he would answer Krishna. Other questions too.
Krishna is merciful.
Prabhuji, everybody's understood.
It's a very tough topic to understand, and it's not easy. When I had to prepare for this, I had to go through it again and again and again. Despite reading it so many times and despite reading this canto so many times, it's not easy to understand. But it is because of the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas that it is made very easy for us to understand. So I tried to make it as easy as possible. But if there are any questions, I would like to take it even offline. We can discuss. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Is it too loud? Shri Shri Gandharvika Giridhari Shriman Mahaprabhu ki jai. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for this wonderful class. Like you just mentioned, very difficult topic, but Prabhuji gave enough analogies, examples to make things easier for us, and I hope we all have absorbed few of his comments and few of the instructions which he gave us. Definitely, I like to say that the takeaway for me was law of gravity. Did we doubt it? I'm sure each one of us did it, but everything is possible for Supreme Personality of Godhead. That we should always remember. And spider analogy was very nice. We know the story of Narada Muni, but always hearing it from a devotee makes it sweeter. So, having knowledge without any basis, without any scripture